At my grandson's birthday, my son gave me an old scarf. Cover your old face, don't shame the family. But when they brought out the cake, I stood up and announced a gift for my grandson that made my son start to tremble. The condo party room had floor-to-ceiling glass on 3 sides, a showpiece of transparency that Dima and Lena liked to brag about. The city glittered in every reflection. Sleek towers, cranes frozen mid-spin, the kind of skyline people use as wallpaper on their phones. Everyone could see everyone. You couldn't hide a thought in that room, not a twitch of embarrassment, not a smirk. It was meant to be open, modern, bright, but it felt like being in a display case, lit from all angles, every gesture catalogued. Dima handed me the scarf like it was a joke, grinning for the cameras his wife Lena had mounted on tripods around the room. There were 3 of them, one near the buffet, one by the cake, and one on a small gimbal, sweeping the crowd in a slow, mechanical arc. I'd seen those in her videos. She liked her authentic moments, carefully staged. 7-year-old Misha was tearing through presents, didn't even notice. His hair stuck up in sweaty tufts, his cheeks smeared with frosting from an earlier cupcake raid. He was a good kid, quiet most of the time, observant in that way kids can be, always watching, storing things away. But right now he was all motion, laughter, and the high-pitched screech of joy that only children can produce without shame. I held the scarf. Frayed wool, smelled like mothballs, faintly, of smoke. Something in my chest went cold. I remembered Marta knitting one just like it the winter after Misha was born. The colour was close, brown-grey with a thread of blue, but this one was older, rougher, as if dug out of a trunk somewhere. "Just kidding, Pop," Dima said, too loud, the kind of laugh that doesn't reach the eyes. "But seriously, maybe tone down the flannel next time." Lena laughed. The other parents laughed. One of them, a man in a checked blazer who looked like he'd never held a wrench in his life, clapped Dima on the shoulder like it was a good one. They were all younger, cleaner, confident. The kind of people who used the word vintage when they meant old. I folded the scarf carefully and set it on the table beside the cake knife. My knee ached from the stairs. The elevator had been out again, and the concierge said they were working on it. I was 62, retired stage rigger, and I know when a load is about to shift. I'd seen beams creak before they broke, ropes twist before they snapped. The air in that room had the same tension, something under strain, ready to give. "Misha," I said, standing. The room quieted, more from surprise than respect. My voice still carried, even after all these years shouting over stage noise. "I've got a gift for you too." Dima's smile flickered, just a fraction, but I caught it. "Next Saturday, you and me, we're going to the Grandview Theatre. I'll take you up into the rigging catwalks, show you how the lights hang, how the curtains fly. You'll see the whole stage from the grid." Misha's eyes went huge. "Really, Grandpa? Really?" The words hung there, heavier than I expected. I could feel the other parents looking around, whispering. Maybe they thought it was quaint, maybe reckless. Dima stepped closer, voice dropping. "That's not safe." "I did it for 30 years, I said. "I know every bolt in that building." He looked at Lena. She raised an eyebrow, expression unreadable behind her perfect makeup. She was still filming. Of course she was filming. He couldn't make a scene, not with the cameras running. "We'll talk about this later," Dima said, forcing a grin for the crowd. "Thanks, Dad. That's thoughtful." But Lena leaned in as I passed, her perfume sharp and cold, whispered so only I could hear. "After next month, your keys won't matter anyway." I drove home with the scarf on the passenger seat. The party lights from the condo still flickered in my rearview mirror for blocks before the city swallowed them. My apartment was rent-stabilized, 6 blocks from the port, a square of space I'd called home for 40 years. Marta and I moved in when the neighborhood was all union bars, repair shops, and shift whistles from the docks. Back then, you could smell salt and diesel when the wind was right. Now it was cold brew cafes, dog spas, and tech co-ops. The same buildings, different names, the buildings old but solid. Red brick, iron fire escapes, the kind of place built to last longer than the people inside. My knees don't like the stairs anymore, but the elevator's as stubborn as I am. I've got a Ring camera on my door because the super recommended it, said the younger tenants were getting them installed. For peace of mind. Inside I made tea, the cheap black kind Marta used to buy in bulk, and sat at the kitchen table. The light buzzed overhead, one bulb flickering. I opened my laptop. Lena's channel, Real Family, Real Life, had a new upload. I clicked. The thumbnail was her smiling, holding a wicker basket labeled Declutter Goals. It started with her walking through what looked like my living room, except it wasn't. She'd mocked it up in her condo, same brown recliner, same faded curtains, a fake yellowed lampshade. She'd even found a similar ceramic mug to the one Marta made in her pottery class back in '88. Some people hold on to the past, Lena said to the camera, but we believe in making space for the future. Next month, we're helping a family member downsize. Stay tuned. The comments were full of heart emojis and hashtags. Nan, fresh start. Auf, family first. Aufru, declutter your life. I sat there watching her walk through that imitation of my home, and something inside me went very still. It wasn't anger at first, just disbelief. Then something heavier started to settle. I closed the laptop. The hum of the refrigerator filled the room. I checked my mailbox the next morning. Someone had pried it open. Nothing missing, but there was a realtor postcard inside, glossy, professional. Katia's headshot smiled up at me. My daughter. The property address was circled in red pen. Her cell number was written in the margin. Let's talk. I didn't call. For 2 days, the scarf stayed on the table beside the laptop. Every time I walked past, I could feel its weight. The smell reminded me of Marta's cedar chest, the one I'd sealed shut after her funeral because I couldn't bear to open it. That scarf, maybe not hers, but close enough, felt like something pulled out of the past and handed to me as a warning. Wednesday morning, the super knocked. Mr. Labanov, you seen this notice? He held up a paper taped to the lobby wall, an inspection schedule, city seal at the top. They're sending assessors. Got to check all the old units, maybe get the rezoning finalized. Rezoning? He shrugged. Developers bought half the block last spring. Could be nothing. Could be they're turning this into condos. I nodded, but my stomach dropped. Condos. The word had followed me all year like a mosquito, around the neighborhood, in the news, now in my own hallway. That night, I called the Grandview Theatre. The phone rang longer than it used to before the automated message kicked in. You've reached the Grandview Performing Arts Center. For tickets, press 1. For administrative offices, press 2. I pressed 2. A woman answered. Grandview admin, this is Carla. It's Victor, I said. Victor Lobanov. Used to be rigger here, late 80s through, well, a while. I was wondering if the fly system's still open to guests. I wanted to bring my grandson Saturday. There was a pause. Hi, Victor. I think I remember your name from the old crew list. We don't usually allow guests up there anymore. Safety regulations changed, liability and all that. Just a short tour. The kid loves the lights. She hesitated. Let me check with Don. He's the head tech now. While I waited, I stared at the ceiling. The paint cracked in spiderweb lines. Somewhere in the building, a faucet dripped steadily. Carla came back. Don says if you sign a waiver, it's fine. Saturday morning before the matinee. No problem. Appreciate it, I said, and meant it. Thursday, I stopped by the port. The cranes moved slow, like tired beasts. I stood by the fence, watching the containers swing, smelling the brine. I used to come here with Marta on Sundays, buy fried smelt from a stall that's long gone. I missed her quiet way of noticing things. She would have seen through Lena in a heartbeat. She'd have known what to say to Dima too. Not words that cut, but ones that made him remember who raised him. At night, I couldn't sleep. The radiator hissed, the streetlight bled through the blinds. I kept thinking about that postcard, Katia's smile. Let's talk. She'd gone into real estate after her divorce, said it was temporary, but she'd stuck with it. She called me sometimes, always quick, between showings. She never mentioned Dima or Lena, though she watched their videos. They've got reach, she said once. You should be proud. Proud. That word had rusted for me years ago. Friday afternoon I got a knock at the door. Through the peephole. Dima. No Lena, no cameras. Just him, hands in his coat pockets, face tight. I opened the door. Can I come in? I nodded. He looked around the apartment like he was checking for something. The furniture, the pictures on the wall, the faint smell of tea. It all made him uncomfortable. You've got to understand, Dad, Lena's trying to help. The downsizing thing, it's not personal. It's my home. Yeah, I know, but the building's changing. They're going to offer buyouts. Katia's got the contact. It's a good deal. I walked to the window. The port cranes glowed in the distance. And if I don't take it, then you get forced out when the permit clears. No protection once they file the redevelopment clause. I turned. You know all this how? He looked at the floor. Lena's been talking to the investors. They like the idea of a partnership, showing the process online. Real stories, you know. You could get something out of it too. Exposure, maybe. Exposure, I said, tasting the word, like frostbite. He winced. Dad, I cut him off. Saturday, I'm taking Misha to the theatre. He sighed. Lena doesn't want him climbing around up there. She's worried. Tell her to worry about her lighting rigs. Dad. I met his eyes. You'll thank me someday. That boy needs to see something real before all he knows are screens. He didn't argue. He just stood there a while, then left without saying goodbye. Saturday came grey and cold. I wore my old stage boots, the ones with steel toes scuffed to hell, and the scarf, yes, the same one he gave me. I wrapped it around my neck, more out of spite than warmth. Misha was waiting out front of their condo, hopping from foot to foot. Lena didn't come down. Dima handed him over like he was loaning out a fragile instrument. Back by 3, he said. The theatre smelled the same, dust, paint, old rope. Carla met us at the door, handed me a clipboard with the waiver. Be careful up there. Catwalk's not what it used to be. We climbed the stairs, Misha's hand gripping mine tight. When we reached the grid, the air shifted, cooler, quieter. The stage below was empty except for a piano and a ghost light. This, I said, is where the magic lives. Misha peered through the gaps in the grating. It's like flying. Exactly. I showed him the counterweights, the pulleys, the safety lines. Told him about the shows I'd rigged. Hamlet, The Tempest, a circus act that nearly burned the place down. He listened like every word was a secret. Grandpa, he said after a while, why doesn't Daddy like this stuff? I smiled. Your dad grew up around it. Sometimes when you grow up with something, you stop seeing the wonder. You just see the dust. We stayed until the house light started to come up. On the way down, I stopped at the maintenance office. You still keep the old lockboxes? I asked Carla. Mostly digital now, she said. Mind if I hang on to one of the spares? She hesitated. You planning on coming back? Maybe. She gave me a small brass key. For nostalgia's sake. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the scarf and the key. I'd cleaned it, smelled less like mothballs now, more like metal and dust, the kind of smell that says work was done here. When I checked my ring feed before bed, there was movement in the hallway, a figure standing too close to my door, then a light, someone taking photos. I rewound. Lena. She was there for less than a minute, whispering something I couldn't hear, phone held up. Sunday morning, the super called. Mr. Labanov, you around? The landlord scheduled an inspection tomorrow. You'll need to clear out the hallway. I told him I would. Then I unplugged the ring, took out the SD card, and locked it in my desk. By Tuesday, the building buzzed with strangers. Inspectors, surveyors, 2 men in suits measuring corners. They spoke in clipped English with an accent I couldn't place. One of them smiled at me like I wasn't there. That evening, Katia called. "Dad, can we meet for coffee?" We met at a cafe 2 blocks away, the kind with reclaimed wood tables and music that sounded like a heartbeat. She looked tired, older than her pictures. "Lena's got investors lined up," she said. "They want to buy the whole building. It's happening whether you agree or not. But if you sell voluntarily, I can make sure you get a better payout." "How much?" she told me. It was more than I'd ever seen at once. Enough to live somewhere smaller, maybe quieter, but not enough to replace the feeling of this place. The worn floors, the creak of the pipes, Marta's handprint still faint in the plaster where she slipped once painting the wall. "I'm not selling," I said. She reached across the table. "Dad, please. They'll evict you, legally. I've been through worse." She looked like she might cry. "Why can't you let go?" Because if I let go, I thought, what's left? But I didn't say it. I just squeezed her hand and left. The next week, I started noticing things. The mailbox tampered with again. My door handle loose. Once, I came home and found the scarf on the floor, though I'd left it hanging. Maybe I was imagining things. Or maybe not. Thursday, I got a letter from the city. Notice of redevelopment hearing. Date set for 2 weeks. That night, I drove to the theatre again. Carla was gone, but the night janitor let me in. I climbed to the grid, sat on the steel walkway, looking down at the empty stage. I thought about the times Marta had sat in the audience, waving when I leaned over to adjust a line. She'd always said the theatre was like a second home. I realized now it might be the last one I had left. When I left, I locked something up there in the maintenance box. The scarf. I folded it carefully, tucked the key under the coil of rope. Maybe someday Misha would find it. Maybe not. But at least it would stay somewhere that still meant something. The next morning, Lena posted another video. Decluttering update, helping Grandpa move. It showed footage from outside my door, taken the night she was there. Sometimes, she said to the camera, you have to make hard choices for the people you love. The comments cheered her on. I didn't comment. I didn't call. The day of the hearing, I showed up in my best jacket, the one Marta mended twice before she passed. The room was full. Lawyers, council reps, developers with perfect hair. Dima sat near the front, staring at his phone. When they called my name, I stood. My voice was steady. This building's been home to dock workers, riggers, electricians, and their families for 60 years. You tear it down, you don't just lose walls, you lose stories. One of the men smiled politely. Mr. Labanov, the new development will create jobs and modern housing opportunities. You'll be compensated. I don't need modern, I said. I need home. The room went quiet. For a second, even Dima looked up. Afterward, outside, he caught up with me. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I looked at him, my son, the man who once built a cardboard castle with me for a school play, who used to laugh until he hiccuped. Maybe some things should be hard. That night, I packed a small bag. Tools, documents, Marta's photo. Left the rest. Saturday, I took Misha to the theatre again. Dima didn't know. We climbed the stairs, the same creaks, the same chill in the air. At the top, I unlocked the maintenance box. The scarf was still there. This is yours now, I said. He looked confused. But it's old. It's real, I said. Keep it. When you wear it, remember this place. Remember how things are held together by more than bolts. He nodded, serious. Okay. 3 days later, Dima texted, coffee? Important. No emojis this time. No smiley faces or half-hearted hearts like he sometimes used when he wanted something but tried to disguise it as affection. Just those two words, and the weight of whatever important meant when it came from my son. I stared at the message for a while, thumb hovering over the screen, watching the bubble of my own hesitation reflected faintly in the glass. I thought about ignoring it. I thought about pretending the message had never come through. But curiosity, or maybe a kind of old habit born from decades of being a father, made me reply, "When and where?" He sent the name of a cafe I'd never been to, one of those new ones with minimalist signage, probably serving coffee that tasted like something from a lab. I could already imagine the smell of roasted beans mingling with concrete and ambition. "See you there," I typed, though I wasn't sure I meant it. The place had exposed brick walls, track lighting that made every table look like a set piece, and furniture that cost more than my first car. People inside wore curated looks, ripped denim that wasn't accidental, sweaters in colors that designers called stone or moss, and sneakers that seemed engineered for both comfort and signaling. I felt like an artifact. Lena was already there, sitting at a corner table typing furiously on her phone. She didn't look up when I walked in, didn't wave. I stood for a moment, letting the warmth from the espresso machines wrap around me, then made my way over. Dima appeared from the counter carrying 2 drinks. He smiled in that professional way of his, the one he used in all their videos, bright, practiced, completely hollow. "Pop," he said, setting one of the cups down. "Black, right?" I nodded. "Still am." He sat down across from me, stirring his oat milk latte with the focus of a surgeon. Lena didn't glance up until she had to, until the silence pressed against her enough to acknowledge me. "Pop, we want to talk about your living situation," Dima said. "I live fine." "The apartment's too big for one person," Lena said, still scrolling, her voice smooth, deliberate. "And the neighborhood's changing. You could get hurt." I took a slow sip, let the bitterness coat my tongue. "I've lived there 40 years. "Exactly," Dima said, leaning forward, elbows on the table like he was pitching a client. "That's why we're thinking, what if you signed it over to us? We'd renovate, turn it into a studio space for the channel. You could stay with Katia for a while, or we'd help you find something smaller, newer, safer." There it was, the pitch. The kind that came dressed as concern but smelled of ownership. I studied their faces. Dima looked eager, calculating. Lena's expression was half bored, half triumphant, like the deal was already sealed and this was just a formality. I said, "No." Lena's eyes finally lifted, sharp and offended. "We're offering to take care of everything." I said no. Dima sighed, the sound of a man burdened by an unreasonable father. He stood, blocking the narrow aisle, not aggressive, just there. A small wall of expectation and disappointment. "Pop, be reasonable." I stood too. My knee cracked, loudly enough to draw a glance from the couple at the next table. I'm 6'1", still got my shoulders. Dima's 5'9" in boots, and for a moment I saw a flicker in his eyes, a reminder that I wasn't yet the frail old man they were rehearsing for. I stepped past him, easy. "Thanks for the coffee," I said. Outside, the air had that cold March bite that stung the lungs just enough to make you feel alive. My phone buzzed in my pocket, an email notification. I almost ignored it, thinking it was another automated newsletter from one of those trade associations that refused to believe I'd retired. But the sender's name caught my attention. Event Pro Solutions. The subject line, "Safety sign-off request, Marchenko wedding." I opened it. My breath came shallow. Dima and Lena's wedding, technically a vow renewal, though they were calling it a brand refresh online, was scheduled for 6 weeks out. The venue was North Bank Hall, a converted warehouse near the river. I'd worked there a dozen times over the years, back when they still hosted real events instead of influencer spectacles. The email listed me as the safety inspector. I hadn't agreed to that. I called the venue manager. "Hey, it's Nick Marchenko. Got your email." "Oh, perfect," she said, cheerful, efficient. "Your son said you'd be thrilled to help." "I need to see the rigging specs. We'll send them over this afternoon." They arrived as a PDF, poorly formatted, no version control, watermarks half covering the numbers. I printed them out, spread the pages across my kitchen table, under the harsh light of the overhead lamp. I took out my red pen, the same kind I'd used for years to mark up rigging diagrams and stage plans. Whoever had drawn these specs had no idea what they were doing. They'd ignored load limits, used the wrong grade of cable, and mounted the motors on non-rated beam clamps. It was a disaster waiting to happen. I felt my pulse quicken, the familiar mix of dread and professional fury. Some errors you could live with, others got people buried. I typed an email, attached my corrections, and sent it to the venue manager, CCing Dima. "These specs are dangerous. I will not sign off unless corrected. N. Marchenko, certified rigger." I hit send, sat back, and waited for the quiet to settle. That night, my phone buzzed again. Lena had posted on her channel. A teaser photo, soft lighting, shallow depth of field, my apartment door, my key hooks in the background. One hook was empty. The caption, "Big reveals coming. Grandpa's in for a surprise." I stared at the image until the edges blurred. My stomach went cold. The internet would see that photo as just another cryptic piece of content, another breadcrumb in their endless performance. But I saw it for what it was, a line crossed. The next morning, I went down to the basement. I hadn't been there in weeks. The air was damp, faintly metallic. My old gear was still there, steel shackles, safety harnesses, tension meters, boxes of bolts sorted by grade. I ran my fingers over the worn handles, felt the grooves in the metal like braille. Tools don't lie. They either hold or they don't. I started pulling what I'd need, inspection tags, the load charts, even the old clipboard I'd used back in the day. I wasn't sure yet what I was planning, but I knew I couldn't sit by and watch them turn something dangerous into content. By noon, I had an email from Dima. No greeting. Just, "Pop, we saw your notes. You're overreacting. The contractor knows what he's doing." I wrote back, "Then he'll have no problem fixing it." No reply. 2 days later, another message from EventPro. "Per your son's request, the inspection has been reassigned to internal staff. Thank you for your time." I sat there, rereading that line. Reassigned. My signature no longer required. My expertise dismissed like an old toolbox gathering rust. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing the sound of a motor whining under strain, cables creaking, steel bending just before it gives. My mind replayed every failure I'd seen on site, the time a truss gave way at a corporate gala, the screams, the chaos, the lawsuits. I thought of Dima and Lena standing under that installation, smiling for cameras, blissfully unaware, or worse, believing that nothing could touch them. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I called the venue manager again. "You still have those revised specs?" We're handling it internally now, Nick." "Humor me." She hesitated, then said quietly, "Off the record, I'm worried too. They pushed for an aesthetic that doesn't fit the structure. I told them, but they said it's all been cleared." "Not by me, it hasn't." She sighed. "If you want to come by during load-in next week, I can't officially authorize it, but I also can't stop you." That was all I needed. The following days crawled by. I went through my old certification papers, updated my notes, checked the latest safety bulletins online. Most of the new riggers had moved to digital tools, but I trusted my instincts more than any app. Steel, torque, load, those things hadn't changed. I kept thinking about that empty key hook in Lena's post. The missing key wasn't just a prop. It meant someone had been inside. I checked my apartment door. The lock was scratched. Subtle, but I noticed. Years of fieldwork make you see details others miss. I changed the cylinder that night, double-bolted it, and moved my spare keys to a different drawer. On the 5th night, a soft clatter woke me. I grabbed the flashlight from the nightstand and crept to the hallway. Nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. But the next morning, I found the mail slot jammed open, a thin plastic wedge stuck inside. Someone had been testing it. I sat at the kitchen table, coffee gone cold, and thought about my kids. Grown adults now, talking about property like it was just another piece of content. They'd built their careers on curated intimacy, broadcasting every emotion in 4K. They didn't understand boundaries. Or maybe they did, and simply didn't care. I printed out the new event schedule that the venue manager had quietly forwarded me. Load-in was set for Tuesday, 8 a.m. Crew of 6, none of them certified riggers. I circled the date. When Tuesday came, I put on my old work jacket, the one with the faded stage ops patch, and drove down to North Bank Hall. The city looked different now. Cranes everywhere, glass replacing brick, everything sharp and temporary. I parked around the corner, walked the rest of the way. Inside, the air smelled of dust and sawdust. The crew was assembling trusses near the ceiling, motors already mounted. I recognized the type, cheap imports, with inconsistent ratings. I counted 4 suspension points where there should have been 6. A man in a high-visibility vest spotted me. "Hey, we're closed set." "Yeah," I said, holding up my clipboard. "Inspection." He frowned. "Didn't hear about that." "Then you haven't been listening." He hesitated, looked at the clipboard again, then shrugged and went back to his crew. Authority isn't just paperwork, it's posture, tone, the weight of a voice that's used to being obeyed. I walked the floor, taking photos, notes, measurements. Every second I grew more certain. If they ran the show like this, someone would get hurt. Maybe not fatally, but enough to end lives in other ways, careers, reputations, marriages. At lunch break, I climbed the ladder to the catwalk. From up there, the view was dizzying. Light streaming through high windows, dust dancing in beams. I checked the clamps, cheap aluminum, not rated for overhead load. Someone had even used zip ties to keep the safety chains from rattling. It wasn't just sloppy, it was reckless. I took more photos, then I left, quietly, before anyone could ask questions. That evening, I sent another email, this time to the venue's insurance contact. Attached, documentation of safety violations at North Bank Hall, Marchenko event installation. Recommend immediate halt pending proper inspection. 2 hours later, my phone rang. It was Dima. "Pop, what the hell are you doing?" "Keeping you alive. You're sabotaging us. The venue's threatening to pull out." "Then fix it." He went silent, breathing sharp through his nose. "You don't understand how this works anymore. It's not about cables and clamps. It's about optics. People want the spectacle." "They won't want it if the ceiling falls on them." He hung up. The next day, Lena posted another video, a vlog, staged like a confession. She sat in perfect light, eyes damp, voice trembling just enough to be believable. "Sometimes," she said, "family doesn't support your dreams. Sometimes they hold you back because they're afraid." She never named me, but she didn't have to. The comments filled in the blanks. Boomer energy. Controlling much. Let them live their truth. I didn't respond. Let them think what they wanted. The truth had weight. It didn't need applause. Still, that night, I sat in the dark and felt the years pressing down. There was a time when Dima used to follow me to job sites, when he'd ask to wear the hard hat that was too big for his head. He'd help coil cables, eyes bright with fascination. He used to respect what I did. What happened? Fame, maybe, or the hunger for it. I'd seen it before, the way attention devoured people, hollowed them out until they believed the image mattered more than the substance. The next morning, the venue called. "Nick, we've halted installation per your report. Thank you." Relief, thin and temporary. But 2 days later, I saw another post. Crisis averted, Lena wrote. Big thanks to our amazing team. The new design's better than ever. Attached was a photo. Same structure, same unsafe setup, just covered in flowers and filters. I drove to the venue again. This time, the doors were locked, security posted outside. I waited until shift change, then slipped in through the side door that the caterers used. The hall was beautiful, in that artificial way beauty often is. I took a breath, climbed the ladder again, tools in hand. The steel whispered under my touch, a language I'd spoken my whole life. I loosened a single bolt, not enough to cause failure, just enough to draw attention when the safety check happened. If anyone competent looked, they'd see the issue and force a real inspection. If not, well, I hoped they would. As I descended, I noticed movement near the far end of the hall. Dima, watching. He didn't say anything at first, just stared. Pop, he said finally. What are you doing? Saving you from yourself. He shook his head, half smiling, like I was an actor who'd forgotten his lines. You don't get it. This is bigger than you, bigger than your rules. People expect magic. They'll get tragedy if you keep this up. He looked past me, toward the hanging flowers swaying gently from the truss. You know what your problem is? You think the world still runs on bolts and beams. It runs on clicks now, on engagement. Engagement's what you get before marriage, I said, and sometimes right before disaster. He laughed, a short, tired sound. You always have to have the last word, huh? I walked past him without answering. The wedding, or brand refresh, as they called it, was scheduled for a Saturday evening. I stayed home that day, hands restless, mind circling the same thought. Maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe I should have trusted them to handle it. But when night fell, I turned on the live stream. The venue glowed with soft amber light. Dima and Lena stood beneath the suspended installation, all smiles. Guests applauded, cameras panned, the music swelled. And then, just barely visible to me but surely caught on someone's camera, a motor seized. The rig shuddered. The flowers trembled like a field before a storm. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dima looked up. For 1 second, I saw something I hadn't seen in years. Fear. Real, raw, human fear. Stage hands rushed in. The stream cut abruptly. I exhaled. My hands were shaking. Later, news spread that no one was hurt. A minor mechanical issue, they said. The installation had been safely lowered. The event resumed. Their fans called it proof of authenticity, another dramatic twist in the saga. But I knew the truth. They'd come within inches of losing everything. 2 days later, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Inside, a single key. My missing one. Attached to it, a note in Dima's handwriting. Pop, let's talk. I sat there for a long time, the key cold in my palm. Maybe this was the start of something, an apology, a truce, or maybe just another setup for the next piece of content. Still, I pocketed the key, because even after everything, he was still my son. And some parts of a man, his duty, his love, his anger, don't retire. They just wait for the next time the ceiling starts to creak. So I waited too. The venue manager called me at 11 p.m. Mr. Marchenko, we've got a problem. The install team's here for a test run and something's wrong. I'll be there in 20, I said, though my body protested before the words were even out. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair and stepped out into the hallway. The apartment was dark, except for the low blue of the television, still muttering through a late-night talk show. I'd fallen asleep there again, half listening to canned laughter, half dreaming of cables and rigging and deadlines I no longer had to meet. Retirement was supposed to mean rest, but I still kept tools in the trunk and a flashlight in my coat pocket, old habits. Outside, rain had been falling for hours, slicking the streets until they looked like dark glass. The city was quiet at that hour, just the hiss of tires on wet pavement and the distant horns of the ships on the river. I drove with the wipers thumping slow, headlights cutting through mist that clung low over the road. North Bank Hall rose ahead, an old warehouse turned event venue, all brick and steel and ambition. It sat by the water where cranes once loaded cargo onto barges, their rusted silhouettes still looming like sentinels. The lot was half flooded, puddles reflecting the orange of security lights. I parked near the loading dock, limped toward the entrance, and saw movement through the glass doors, people rushing, arms waving. Inside, the air smelled of wet concrete and machine oil. The crew was gathered under a skeletal frame of aluminum trusses, half hung with white silk roses that shimmered in the overhead lights. It was meant to be the centerpiece for the ceremony, Lena's ceremony, my son's wedding. I was supposed to just attend, smile for photos, maybe give a toast, not fix their mistakes at midnight. The rig hung unevenly, one corner sagging, the motors above whining in protest. A tangle of cables crossed where they shouldn't, and one of the pulleys was spinning against the housing, metal scraping metal. I could tell from 20 feet away that the load wasn't distributed right. Whoever designed this had no idea what they were doing. "Who designed this?" I asked, my voice echoing through the hall. The venue manager, small woman, sharp blazer, hair pulled back, looked exhausted. "Some influencers vendor," she said. "Your son insisted. Said it was part of their brand aesthetic." "Brand aesthetic," I repeated, staring at the wobbling structure. "It's not safe." She nodded quickly, almost relieved that someone else was saying it. "Can you fix it?" I looked up at the grid, 20 feet high, catwalk access on the side. My knee ached just thinking about the climb. Old injury from the refinery job years ago. Bad ladder, worse landing. But I saw the crew's faces, the tension in their shoulders, and I knew they weren't qualified for this. If I didn't handle it, someone might get hurt. "Yeah," I said. "I can fix it." I grabbed a harness from the tool cart, tested the latch, then started up the ladder. Each rung sent a pulse of pain through my leg, the joint grinding in protest. Below, the crew fell silent. The hum of the motors filled the space like a threat. The catwalk was narrow, slick with condensation. The metal grating trembled slightly beneath my boots. From up there, the hall looked cavernous, the river lights flickering through tall windows. I moved slow, tracing the path of the cables with my flashlight, following them through pulleys and guides until I found the problem. Someone had doubled up a pulley that wasn't rated for the load. It couldn't take the strain. If they'd done a full test run with weight, the whole thing might have snapped, sent the roses, trusses, and motorized rig crashing onto the floor. Onto people. I pulled the emergency brake lever on the motor system to lock it in place, then began rerouting the cable, threading it through a sturdier line, tying off with a proper figure-8 knot. My hands remembered every motion, decades of rigging work, thousands of setups. I could have done it blindfolded. Sweat dripped down my temples. My palms were slick, but steady. Halfway through the reroute, a sharp whine cut through the air. The motor kicked on. The grid jerked hard, a violent lurch that sent a jolt through the catwalk. The emergency brake hadn't engaged fully. Someone below had hit the switch, thinking the test was starting again. The rig swung on its lines, silk roses tangling into the cable I was holding. The motion yanked the reroute taut, nearly pulling me off balance. I grabbed the nearest truss beam and locked my arms around it, taking the weight. My shoulder burned, old scar tissue tearing a little. Below, someone screamed. The grid dipped, then caught on the section I'd just reinforced. The rerouted cable held. Barely. This time, someone listened. The motor died with a shudder. The hall fell silent except for the heavy sound of rain on the windows. I stayed there for a few seconds, breathing hard, waiting to make sure the rig wouldn't shift again. Then I finished the reroute, double-checked the tension, and secured the lines properly. When I finally climbed down, My knee gave out on the last rung, but I caught myself on the rail. The crew exhaled as one, relief washing over them. The venue manager pressed a hand to her chest. "You saved us," she said quietly. I nodded, too tired to answer. My shirt was soaked through with sweat. I handed her the wrench and started for the exit. Outside, the rain had stopped. Steam rose from the pavement. I sat in the car for a long time before starting the engine. The dashboard clock glowed 12:41. My hands were still shaking, though I told myself it was just adrenaline. 2 days later, my phone buzzed while I was having coffee. A notification: Lena had posted something. The video opened on a shaky phone clip, filmed from the floor of the hall. The rig swung overhead, roses whipping in the air. The caption read, "When family tries to help but makes it worse. Stay tuned for the real pros." The comments came fast. "Who let him up there? Looks dangerous. Old guy shouldn't be touching that equipment. Senile much?" My stomach tightened as I scrolled. She'd edited the footage, cut it to make it look like I'd caused the swing, not saved the structure. The part where I shouted for the power to be cut was gone. So was the part where I fixed the reroute. What remained was just me clinging to the truss while the rig lurched, looking like I'd lost control. I closed the app, set the phone face down on the table. The rain started again outside, light and cold. For a while, I just sat there listening to it, the way I used to listen to storms on the rig sites. Calm on the outside, chaos underneath. I didn't call her. What was there to say? That she'd humiliated me to a few thousand followers. That I'd risked my shoulder, my knee, my pride to keep her big show from collapsing. It wouldn't matter. To her, image was everything. By afternoon, a friend texted me the same clip, asking if it was really me. I didn't reply. That night, I turned off my phone. The next morning, I drove back to North Bank Hall, early enough that the parking lot was still empty. The river smelled of silt and old iron. Inside, the hall had been transformed. The rig was finished, roses hanging perfect, lights glinting like frost. Someone had done a professional job reassembling it, probably under contract. The venue manager spotted me from the far end of the hall. "Mr. Marchenko, I didn't expect you." "Just wanted to see how it turned out," I said. She hesitated, glancing at the workers still taping down cables. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" "Yeah," I said, though my eyes went to the pulley system above. They'd kept my reroute. My fix was still there, hidden behind fabric and lights. When I left, I walked along the river path. Seagulls screamed overhead, white specks against the grey sky. I tried to shake the anger, but it stuck, deep and heavy. That evening, Lena called. For a moment, I thought she'd realized what she'd done, but her tone was bright, rehearsed. "Hey, Dad, I saw you liked the video. Kind of funny, right?" "I didn't like it," I said. "Oh, well, people loved it. Engagement's through the roof. Don't take it personally. It's just content." "Content," I repeated, the word tasting bitter. "You think what happened up there was content?" She sighed, the kind of sigh that meant she was done listening. "You always overreact. Anyway, the new vendors got it under control. No need to worry." "I wasn't worried," I said quietly. "I was fixing it." There was a pause. Then she said, softer, "Look, I appreciate you coming down that night, but you really shouldn't have been up there. You could have gotten hurt. Just stay out of it from now on, okay?" She hung up before I could answer. I sat in the dark, phone still in my hand, the silence thick around me. Over the next week, the clip spread further. I saw it reposted on wedding forums, reaction channels, even a few local news aggregators. Each version came with new commentary, mocking captions, slow-motion replays, someone overlaying circus music. My face, my stumble on the ladder, my shouted command, twisted into something pathetic. Neighbors mentioned it in passing. My old crew foreman, Pete, called to ask if I was okay. "You don't look half as bad as they're saying," he said, trying to make it a joke, but I could hear pity in his voice. I started walking at night again, like I used to after shifts at the refinery. The streets were empty then, the city breathing through puddles and street lamps. Sometimes I'd pass the hall and see it glowing inside, preparations underway. The wedding was only a few days away. The morning of the ceremony, I put on my suit. The knee brace fit tight beneath the trousers. Outside, the sky threatened rain again, as if the weather couldn't let go of that night. When I arrived, the place was crowded. Photographers, florists, caterers, everyone moving with polished precision. Lena stood near the entrance, white dress gleaming, phone in hand. She barely looked up when she saw me. "Hi, Dad. Glad you made it." "You look beautiful," I said. "Thanks." She smiled for the camera. Someone pointed her way, then moved aside. I found my seat in the third row. The air smelled of roses and ozone from the lighting rigs. Above, my repair held firm, invisible behind silk. When the ceremony began, everything went perfectly. The music swelled, petals drifted from above, and the audience gasped in delight. The rig performed flawlessly, the cascade timed to the final chord. Cameras flashed. Applause. For a moment, I felt something like pride. Then I noticed the videographer's angle, framed perfectly on Lena and her new husband beneath the flowers, with not even a hint of the man who had made it safe. Afterward, while guests mingled, I slipped away to the service corridor. The old catwalk was still there, rusted and narrow. I climbed halfway, just enough to see the cables again, to run my fingers along the tension line I'd tied that night. It was solid, secure. Below, laughter drifted from the hall. I stayed there for a long time, listening, until my knee started to throb. Then I descended, slower than before. Outside, rain began again, soft, almost forgiving. I walked to my car and looked back once. The hall's lights reflected off the wet pavement, gold and trembling. On the drive home, I thought about how things used to be, when work meant something tangible, when safety mattered more than spectacle. I thought about the first time I'd shown Lena how to hold a wrench, how she'd laughed at the grease on her hands. Somewhere along the line, that memory had been edited too, replaced with filters and captions. When I got home, I opened the phone again. The clip had 1 million views now. The comments had shifted. A few people were defending me. "Looks like he was trying to stop it," one wrote. "Not fair to blame him." Others piled on. The algorithm didn't care about truth, only momentum. I typed a comment once, then deleted it. Instead, I scrolled to the end, where someone had uploaded the full, unedited version. No caption, just the footage. It had a few hundred likes, no hashtags, no music. I watched it twice, then closed the app. In the quiet that followed, I realized something. Maybe legacy wasn't in videos or posts or even memories others could distort. Maybe it was in the things that stayed standing after you'd walked away, the cables you rerouted, the structures you left safe. I went to bed without setting an alarm. The rain kept falling outside, steady and real, unedited. When morning came, I felt the ache in my knee but didn't mind it. Pain, at least, was honest. Somewhere across town, the roses from that night would already be wilting. But the rig, my fix, would still hold. It always would. And maybe, someday, when the lights burned out and the decorations came down, someone would look up at the beams and see the knot I'd tied, the small, precise mark of care left behind by hands that still remembered how to keep a thing from falling. Maybe that would be enough. I didn't respond online. I built a file instead. First, I pulled my original email with the corrected specs, time-stamped, sent before the test. Then I called the venue manager, asked if she still had the vendor's original design. She sent it over. Clear proof they'd ignored my warnings. Next, I contacted the band scheduled for the ceremony. They'd done a rehearsal the night before the test. Their bassist had filmed the whole thing for his Instagram story. I watched it frame by frame. There, you could see me on the catwalk, working steady, stopping the crash, No chaos, no mistakes. I saved everything. Then I checked public records. Property databases are open if you know where to look. Katia had filed something called a family interest declaration with the co-op board, claiming financial responsibility for my unit. It wasn't legally binding yet, but it was a move. My daughter was staging a takeover. I called my sister's kid, Anton, the one who still talked to me. You on the family group chat? Yeah, why? Anything about me? A pause. Uncle Nick, I'm going to forward you something. Don't tell them. The screenshots came through, a thread from 3 weeks ago. Lena. Once we get the keys, we gut it. New floors, white walls, ring lights. The old stuff goes to storage or auction. Marta's photos. She'd been a photographer. Local events, union meetings, neighborhood kids. Her archive filled 2 closets. It was all I had left of her. I sat in the dark apartment, holding my phone. The next morning, I got a text from Dima. Looking forward to tomorrow night. Let's make it special. Tomorrow was the pre-wedding dinner. The dinner was at a private room in a restaurant with waiters in vests. Dima had invited 50 people, family, friends, sponsors. I wore my good jacket, the one Marta bought me for Anton's graduation. Lena stood at the head of the table, glass raised. Before we eat, I want to toast the man who taught Dima everything, his father, Nick. Everyone looked at me. Nick's been so generous, Lena said, and tomorrow at the ceremony, he's going to make one more generous gesture. He's going to hand over the keys to his apartment so we can build something beautiful for Misha's future. The table clapped. I hadn't agreed to any of this. Actually, I said, standing, I'm not. The clapping stopped. Lena's smile hardened. We talked about this. No, you talked. I said no. She walked over, heels clicking. Everyone's watching, Nick. Don't embarrass yourself. I'm not giving you my home. Her hand was fast. The slap echoed. My cheek stung, but I didn't move. The room gasped. I pulled out my phone, dialed. 1 ring. 2. Yeah? The voice was rough, tired. Yuri, I need you. Where? I gave him the address, hung up. Who was that? Dima demanded. Someone who remembers what family means. He'd been my union steward, Marta's boxing coach, the guy who taught half this neighborhood how to throw a punch and take one. He was 68, beat to hell by lymphoma, and everyone thought he couldn't walk anymore. But he walked. The room went silent. Then someone started crying. Then someone else. These were people Yuri had helped, coached, mentored, bailed out. Seeing him on his feet was seeing a ghost choose to haunt you with love. His voice carried. Dima stared. Lena's mouth opened, closed. Let's go, I said. We left. The room stayed silent. The wedding was the next night. I went. Yuri went. We sat in the back. The ceremony was perfect, too perfect, scripted. The flower rig I'd fixed descended on cue, silk roses drifting. Lena cried on demand. The cameras caught everything. During the reception, I walked to the band leader. You know Moonlight Serenade? Sure. Play it. My wife loved that song. He nodded. The music shifted. Couples slowed. I closed my eyes, remembered Marta in our kitchen swaying to the radio. When I opened them, Dima was there. You're making this about you. I'm remembering my wife. Everyone's staring. Let them. Lena appeared, furious. You need to leave. I was invited. She grabbed my arm. I pulled free. She stumbled in her heels, caught herself. The live stream camera swiveled. Caught it all. I found the venue manager after. That live stream, can you save the whole thing? We archive everything for 30 days. Good. In the parking lot, Ole, Katia's fiancé, was waiting. Big guy, gym owner, fake tan. You ruined their night. They ruined my home. He shoved me. I slipped on the wet asphalt, caught myself on a car. My palm split open on the mirror. Ole turned to leave. Something fell from his pocket, a key fob. I picked it up. His gym's logo was printed on it. I pocketed it. The next morning, the internet had opinions. Lena posted a tearful video. Last night, my father-in-law disrupted our wedding because we tried to hold him accountable for unsafe behavior. We love him, but we can't enable him anymore. The comments were split. Half called me a bitter old man. Half asked why she'd slapped me on camera. I called Ira Holub, Yuri's daughter, community organizer, sharp as her father ever was. I saw the video, she said. You need a lawyer? Not yet. I need a plan. We met at her office. I spread out my evidence, emails, timestamps, the wedding VOD request, property records. They can't take your apartment, Ira said. Not legally. They're not trying to take it legally. Then we make them pay for trying. She outlined it. Civil pressure, not criminal. Contract breaches, venue fines, sponsor penalties. We weren't sending anyone to prison. We were making it expensive to cross me. What do you need from me? I asked. Everything you've got. And one more thing. Access to your building's security footage. I nodded. I'll get it. That afternoon I checked my apartment. The key hook was empty. Someone had come in while I was at the wedding. My neighbor, Mrs. Patel, knocked. Nick, I need to show you something. She pulled up her hallway camera feed. There, timestamp from the night before, Katia and Lena entering my apartment. With them was a young guy in a building maintenance shirt, the super's nephew who had a master key. I saved the file, Mrs. Patel said. Thank you. I walked through my apartment. Most things were untouched, but Marta's photo album, the leather-bound one with her best work, was gone. I texted Anton. Check the family chat again. He sent a screenshot an hour later. Lena, got the vintage stuff. Auction appraiser coming Thursday. This is going to be great content. They were selling my wife's memory. Thursday morning, I parked outside my building, waited. At 10 a.m., Ole's truck pulled up. He went inside, came out 20 minutes later with a crate. I recognized it, the wooden one Marta used to store her cameras and lenses. He loaded it into the truck bed, drove off. I followed. He took the river road, past the old docks. The boutique gym, his place, sat in a converted shipping building, all glass and chrome. He parked in the alley, started unloading. I got out. That's mine. Ole turned. Get out of here, old man. That crate, my wife's. He kept walking. I followed. He broke into a jog. So did I. My knee screamed. Didn't matter. He cut through the boardwalk, weaving between joggers. I stayed close. Riggers know how to move, economy, balance. I grabbed a rolling security gate someone had left open, yanked it across the path. Ole's scooter, he'd jumped on one, hit the gate. He flew off, rolled. The crate spilled. Cameras, lenses, the album. I picked up the album. Ole tried to grab it back. I sidestepped, used his momentum, let him stumble into a bench. He stayed down, breathing hard. Touch my wife's things again, I said, and I'll make sure every safety inspector in the city knows your gym's ceiling anchors aren't rated. He stared. I walked away, crate in my arms. At home, I opened the album carefully. Marta's photos, union rallies, neighborhood kids, the port at sunrise. Beautiful. And tucked inside, a letter. Handwritten, dated 20 years ago. Addressed to Yuri. Yuri, if anything happens to me, make sure Nick keeps the apartment. I know the kids might not understand, but it's our home. Protect it. Marta, Yuri had co-signed the original lease. He had legal standing. I live in a one-party consent state. That means I can record phone calls as long as I'm part of the conversation. I called the subcontractor who'd designed the flower rig. Hey, it's Nick Marchenko. I signed off on your install at North Bank Hall. Oh, right. Yeah, thanks for fixing that. I'm writing a report. Can you confirm who provided the original specs? The client's wife. Lena something. She insisted we use those motors, said they'd look better on camera. Even after you told her they were unsafe? Yeah, we flagged it, but she said her father-in-law would handle it. Got it, thanks. I had the recording. I also had my original email with corrections. I forwarded both to the venue manager. She replied within an hour. Our sponsor is reviewing this. They may seek damages from your son for misrepresenting safety compliance. I forwarded her response to Ira. This is good, she said. Real good. Ira found the rest. She'd been digging into Dima and Lena's business filings, their LLC paperwork. The channel wasn't just about family content. They'd pitched investors on a legacy reboot. Take an old family story, rewrite it, monetize it. The pitch deck was brutal. It showed mock-ups of my apartment renovated into a studio shrine. But the shrine wasn't to Marta. It was to a fictional version of their family, one where I was the absent, drunk father, and they were the heroes who'd overcome me. They're rewriting history, Ira said. Marta's letter proves it's a lie. Then we used the letter. The letter showed Marta had asked Yuri to protect the apartment because she'd feared exactly this, her kids erasing her to build their brand. I sat with Yuri at his kitchen table. He was thinner now, hands shaking, but his eyes were clear. They're going to try one more stunt, he said. I can feel it. The gym, I said. Lena's planning a live reveal. She's going to show Marta's album like she rescued it. Then we show up. You don't have to. Yeah, I do. The civil levers clicked. The venue froze Dima's final payment pending resolution of the safety complaint. The brand sponsor, a meal kit company, paused their ad deal, citing reputational review. I served a formal notice through the building management. Any items removed from my apartment were to be returned. I listed serial numbers for Marta's cameras and lenses. Legal, documented. Lena scheduled the live unveiling for the following Saturday at Ole's gym. The promo video promised rescued family treasures and the real story. I used Ole's key fob to visit the gym after hours. I didn't touch anything, didn't sabotage. I just studied the layout, ceiling anchors, emergency exits, load-bearing walls. Rigging habit, you always know the room. Friday, a courier delivered a cease and desist letter. It claimed I was harassing them, endangering their livelihood, and defaming their brand. I filed it. I'd never cared about social media, but Ira taught me the basics. Platforms let you file takedown requests if someone uses your image or voice without permission. I filed them. Every clip that showed me or used audio of me talking. In-state, platform compliant. Not censorship, just control. 3 videos came down within a day. Then I emailed the sponsor's rep, the one who'd been copied on the safety complaint. You asked for written proof of violations, attached, subcontractor admission, corrected specs with timestamps, venue manager confirmation. Let me know if you need anything else. She replied, We've scheduled an on-site audit of the event space. Same day as the live unveiling. Perfect. Saturday. The gym was packed. Cameras, lights, influencers, with ring lights on stands. Lena had built a whole set. Ole was flexing for the crowd. Dima looked nervous. Yuri and I walked in as paying guests. $10 for a day pass. The live stream started. Lena smiled at the camera. Today we're revealing something special, a family legacy we rescued. Behind her, someone was rigging a mock flower drop, just like the wedding. Same wrong setup. I walked onto the set. That's not safe, Lena's smile cracked. Security. I'm a paying member, I said, and that rig's going to drop. The sponsor rep was there, clipboard out. She looked up. I grabbed chalk from the gym's lifting area, went to the mat, did the math, drew it out, load, angle, motor rating. This is the correct calculation. What you've got is 30% over. Ole tried to stop me. Yuri stepped between us. The crowd filmed everything. The sponsor rep said, Pause the stream. Lena's face went red. You can't. We can, the rep said, pending safety compliance. The stream was paused, but the cameras were still rolling. I opened Marta's album in front of everyone. My wife was a photographer, I said. She documented this neighborhood for 40 years. Every face in here mattered to her. I found the letter, held it up. Didn't read it aloud, just showed it. She left a note asking a friend to protect our home, because she knew someone might try to erase her. The room was silent. Lena stepped forward. That's private property. It's my property. She lunged for the album. I didn't let go. We stood there, her pulling, me holding steady. Let go, she hissed. No. Yuri's voice quiet. He said no. She let go. Ole grabbed the crate from backstage, tried to run it out the back corridor. I saw him, followed. The corridor was narrow, lined with equipment. I grabbed a rolling weight rack, shoved it across the exit. Ole skidded, tried to jump it. Didn't make it. The crate hit the ground. Lenses scattered. He came at me. I sidestepped, used a resistance strap from the wall to loop the door handle, cinched it tight. The door wouldn't open from his side. He yanked. The crash bar triggered. Alarms blared. People came running. Ole was trapped behind the door, red-faced, shouting. The gym staff had to unlock it from the outside. No one was hurt. Mall security showed up, took statements. No arrests. Just chaos. The sponsor rep quietly left. Within an hour, the email came. Contract terminated for cause. Back in the main gym, the cameras were still rolling. Lena was trying to salvage the stream. I walked into frame. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You return every item you took from my apartment. You issue a public correction on this stream, admitting you demanded my keys, that your rig specs were unsafe, and that you slapped me. And you give me permanent control over any footage that shows me all my wife's belongings. Dima stepped forward. Or what? Or I send the wedding live stream to the sponsor's legal team right now, every second of it, including the slap, the unsafe rig, all of it. Yuri took one slow step forward. The room fell silent. Dima looked at Lena. She looked at the camera. The viewer count was climbing. This was a disaster, but it was viral. Fine, Lena said. They read the correction on camera. Wooden, humiliated, real. The sponsor's email popped on my phone. Contract terminated for cause. I picked up the crate, walked toward the exit. Dima stepped into my path. You destroyed us, he said. You tried to erase your mother. He shoved me. I shifted my weight, used his momentum. Hip check, controlled. He stumbled back, caught himself on a bench. Not brutal, just final. The room inhaled. I handed the crate to Yuri. His hands trembled, but he held it steady. Behind us, the alarms were still warbling. The live stream chat was exploding, comments flying, share count climbing. Lena's face was frozen, Dima's hand shaking. The screen behind them flashed red. Stream ended by sponsor request. The family brand was imploding in real time. Yuri and I walked out. The door closed behind us. The noise faded. The city was bright and cool. I could breathe. That was something, Yuri said. Yeah, I said. It was. We drove back to my apartment. I still had the keys. I still had Marta's photos. I still had my home. And my son still had his shame.